Hello, welcome back to the Frugal Kitchen. Today I'm making a new recipe that comes from ultimatemedicinalmushrooms.com. I'm making this recipe, which I'm calling zucchini mushroom stir fry, because my friend gave me a bunch of mushrooms and tomato and one zucchini, and this recipe uses all of those. I also always keep dried chickpeas in the house, so I had to buy 0 things for this recipe, which is like my favorite thing ever. The recipe said to get half a cup of mushrooms and chop them, but I don't like that because I mean, they sell mushrooms in ounces. They don't sell it by the volume, by cup. So I just said, let me just make it 8 ounces of mushrooms. So I weighed out 8 ounces of mushrooms from the 24-ounce container that my friend had given me, and I'm going to be continuing this recipe with 8 ounces of mushrooms, which I think is a good amount. You could probably even do a pound without too much trouble if you have a big enough skillet, because it doesn't yield that many servings when it's all finished. So go ahead and slice your mushrooms first. Actually, I am slicing all the vegetables first just because I didn't want to have to move the camera around, but the recipe actually does start off with you heating the pan with oil in it and then throwing in some spices, but we'll do that later. Then take your zucchini and cut off that weird stub that I assume is part of the root. Slice it in half, which is ridiculously difficult, and then slice it the other way. You'll see. Anyway, you probably don't even have to slice it in half at first. You can probably just slice it going across and then cut those coins in half if that's easier, which I think it probably would be. I have the hardest time slicing zucchini lengthwise. On ultimatemedicinalmushrooms.com, this recipe is referred to as beanie mushroom stir fry. I don't think of chickpeas as beans, even though I know they are. It's not very beany to me. The chickpeas are a small addition. It's mostly a zucchini mushroom stir fry. So a few days had passed from when I got the free food from my friend and when I made this. So one of the tomatoes she gave me did end up getting a little bit moldier than it was when I brought it home. And that may happen to you. Just slice off the offending piece of produce and continue eating. It's not a big deal. Do not waste a whole tomato. I don't know if I'm cutting this tomato correctly. Perhaps if you are an expert in cutting tomatoes, you would share this information in the comments. I know how to cut Roma tomatoes. I don't know what kind of tomato this is. Regular, sandwich, heirloom. I don't really know tomato varieties. It's whatever the typical tomato is. And I think I'm cutting too much flesh off. So please give me a tip on this. I don't know what to do. But you will need only 1 tomato and 1 zucchini for this recipe. And then if you go my way, 8 ounces of mushrooms. I was very excited to make this recipe because I've been trying to eat lower carb lately. I have had quite a lot of rice and pasta, and I will warn you, pasta is on my shopping list for tomorrow, so it's not my fault. It's on sale. I have to get it. I just don't have to eat it all right away. So I was really happy to try this because I believe this recipe is keto, I don't know how it's said, but I don't think there's a single carb in here. I mean, technically produce has carbs. I think, well, a tomato's a fruit, there may be some carbs there, but it's very, very low in carbs. I just realized this recipe is also vegan. So vegan and keto. God, I hope I'm saying that right. You don't find that too much. There's not a whole lot of recipes out there that are both. And that is like my goal diet because I have really high cholesterol and prediabetes. So that's my life. If you like this recipe so far, please like, share, and subscribe. As of this recording, I have almost 500 subscribers, and I would love if you would be one of the many wonderful people who helped me get up to 500. And it does really help the channel meet and find new viewers. So here are all of the main vegetables in the recipe. I never actually specified, but I was dicing the tomatoes. I just cut them up into smallish chunks. I don't know. So now we are going to mince 1 clove of garlic. I have 2 tiny cloves that count as 1 clove. The recipe says to crush the garlic, and I don't have a garlic press, so this is basically the same thing. I mean, what's the big difference? Crushed versus minced. Maybe the garlic juice is added flavor, but if you find that it doesn't taste like garlic enough, add more garlic. Now we're going to add 2 tablespoons of olive oil to a skillet. I used medium heat. The recipe actually did not really specify a heat range, so medium is my safety section of the stove when I don't know how hot to make it. So we're going to be adding a tablespoon of oregano. We're doing all the spices now. Throw in the garlic if you haven't yet. And then a tablespoon of oregano. Yes, that is quite a lot of oregano. It's more than any recipe I've ever seen. And then a tablespoon of basil. I don't have basil, so I'm using thyme. It actually specifies fresh for both of these, but whose life are we living here? I don't do fresh herbs. That's just asking to throw away your money because something went bad. So I don't know. Like, is it like buying cilantro where it comes in a big clump and you can't control how much you purchase? Because that would be awful. Now I'm going to stir it up a bit here. Just try to get the oil on as much of the herbs as you can because that will help it stick to the vegetables. Now it says to add pepper to taste, black pepper specified. I would also at this point add some salt to taste because it's not in the recipe and we added it after we cooked it. I don't know if it's just us, but it seems like anytime a recipe is missing salt, it doesn't taste quite as good. Stir all that up. Now add the sliced zucchini and stir it up a little bit so that you get some of the herbs onto the produce. Now take the equivalent of 1 can of chickpeas drained. If you want to make the chickpeas at home yourself, this will be 3/4 cup of dried chickpeas. Let it soak overnight in water. Then drain the water, please. Fill the pot with new water and boil that for about 2 hours on medium-ish heat. I usually boil it high for 30 minutes or 40 minutes, and then I lower it to maybe low for a simmer, and then cook it that way the rest of the time. So once you've stirred that up, you're going to want to cook the chickpeas and zucchini for 12 minutes. The recipe does say to check it every 4 minutes and stir. This is what it looks like when it's finished. Then you'll add the sliced mushrooms, and the recipe just says to cook these until they are soft. So you're going to also add a tablespoon of cilantro. It did say fresh, chopped up cilantro. I don't do that, as you might have noticed. And I keep cilantro paste in the freezer. It will stay fresh that way because I use it to make salsa. So I just used a tablespoon of cilantro paste, and that was perfect. Stir everything up and then cover again and let cook for, I'm not sure how long it took for me, but keep an eye on it because the zucchini did overcook, and part of that was because my battery died and I had to wait for it to charge to continue cooking and continue filming, obviously. When the mushrooms are done, stir in the tomatoes and cook for another 1 to 2 minutes. Just so you know, I covered the skillet when cooking this periodically because both zucchini and mushrooms cook better when there's steam involved. So I just wanted to speed up the process a little bit. Here's how it looks when it's done. You can see the herbs are covering pretty much all of the food in here, and that is exactly the effect you want to go for. I don't really cook with oregano or thyme very much, so the flavor was different for me. I usually cook with cayenne salt, and black pepper and garlic. But it was really good and even better with salt, so I do recommend adding that. Happy eating!